Good morning. Thank you for joining us at Pastor's Corner. Glad that you are with us. I hope you're having a beautiful morning and that your day will be more blessed with today's teaching. We're going to be in the Gospel of Mark in the 4th chapter, starting with the 14th verse. It's a parable that you may be familiar with. You probably are, but it starts in verse 14. The sower soweth the word, and these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown, but when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately, and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. And these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the case of this world, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things entering in, it chokes the word, and it becometh unfruitful. And these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word, and receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, some 100. Now, you may be familiar, there is the part where he gives the parable. This is the interpretation of the parable. But it is referring to the word of the Lord and what happens when people hear it, and the different ways that the word gets taken away from them. It doesn't find itself on good ground, and the last one finds itself on good ground, and it bears fruit. And the other ones, as we read, the stresses of life, the different things happen that the ground's not prepped to receive the word, and he likens it to a seed going in the ground. So the seed goes into the ground. He's using that as a metaphor, an illustration. The Lord is. So the seed goes into the ground, and if it's not good ground, it doesn't go and make its roots and bear fruit. But what the Lord says is they hear the word. They hear it. So the way you receive the word, you hear the word. That's how you receive it. You hear it. But we have to look at it from our perspective of having good, fertile ground. Good, fertile ground to receive the word. To receive it as the word comes to us. I'm going to reread it. After saying this, the sower soweth the word, and these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown, it's put in, but when they have heard, they've heard it, Satan cometh immediately, and he taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. Satan comes and steals it. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground. So the ground's not, it's full of rocks, who when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness. They take it, but they have no root in themselves, and so the word endures but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution arises for the word's sake, immediately they are offended, and these are they which are sown among thorns. So that's that one, and then it comes to, and these are they which are sown among the thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things entering in, chokes the word. It chokes it. So there's the ones that the Lord gives the illustration, the metaphors of the word getting taken away, as compared to the one that receives it on fertile ground. And where is it received? He says it, in the heart. There is so much information with that. The word is received in the heart. You hear it, receive it in the heart. So you actually are hearing it from your heart. This is where a lot of people don't even move forward, because it's all up here in their mind. What I mean, that they don't even allow their heart to receive it. So we hear it. It says in our hearts. This is where it happens, is in our hearts. But what I really want to drill down on is each one of us, our ability to hear it. This tells us the steps when we hear it, how it can be taken away. But how do we even get to the step to hear it? How do we get to the step to hear it? What I want us to understand is that when we hear the word is delivered to us, that we have to receive it at where we're at in our life. And what do I mean by that? That it may take us hearing something more than one time. We may have to hear the same word multiple times. And I'm going to give you a modern day example. If you've ever watched the same movie more than one time, I'm sure you have. I'm sure there's movies you've watched more than once. So you watch a movie, you see a movie, and you take it in. Then you watch the same movie and everything's identical, and all of a sudden you see something you didn't see. It's like, I didn't see that last time. I didn't catch that the last time. And then if you watch it multiple times, you pick up different things. They call them Easter eggs, finding Easter eggs. Other people will say hidden gems, but the common term is Easter eggs. And you could find places that will give you the Easter eggs of movies. I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't want anyone to tell me any of those things. I'm talking about a movie. I don't even want to know certain things. Spoilers, those are called. Because I want to go in with my accepting it and seeing it and receiving it, and then grabbing from there. Now, this is shallow. Movies are shallow compared to the Word. Movies are shallow compared to the Word. So movies don't even come close to what we get from the Word. But I want us to see how that happens in that arena, that area. But it's the same way. If it's us reading the Word, where we read it ourselves, we hear the Word that someone else is reading and we're listening to somebody else read it, or if it is in a preaching or a teaching, then many times you could hear something and you receive it, then you hear it again and you get something else. I was thinking about this, the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis. I can't even count how many times I've been through the book of Genesis. I can't even count. It's beyond 1,000 times. Beyond 1,000 that I have gone through the book of Genesis. And what I mean gone through it, it's not just going from Genesis 1:1 all the way to the final verse, but that has happened. But breaking down different parts through different times. So many times. And why am I sharing that? Because out of all those times of going through the book of Genesis, I still find things that it's, how did I not see this? How did I not see or hear this part? I say hear because I'm talking about the hearing part. That it's like, wait a second, let me reread that. Okay, this, how did I not catch that in the past? And it just jumps out. I have gone through in Hebrew, which is another going through it, just dialing down, actually going letter, like reading the whole thing. And that's for me, okay? I'm not telling you to go do that, but I have done that where starting with the first, which is in Hebrew, sheet is the first word, and that's what it's called in the Hebrew. It's not called Genesis. So I've gone like through the whole thing over and over and over, and where my Hebrew teacher, and this was intimidating for me. It was intimidating, where I would read in Hebrew, starting with Genesis 1:1 to my Hebrew teacher. I would read it in Hebrew to him. That was intimidating for me. But to go through and read it, and he would listen to me as I read it. He would sit next to me, and I'm a grown man, I'm a pastor, and I have this Hebrew teacher who's fluent in, of course, Hebrew, and I'm reading it to him. And then sometimes I come to a part, and then he, like if I was a child, he'd have to help me over it to read it. And then he would give me, we would do this exercise, and then he would leave me like with the homework. And he'd say, okay, I want you to go through and find everywhere in there where the term Elohim is. Go in there and just find Elohim. Go in there and find, and this would be like homework he would give me to do. And what he was doing is he was teaching me. Again, I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm just telling you how, what I would go through and the depths of it and interpreting it and going from English into Hebrew and then from Hebrew back to English. And then you would just see things that I don't want to get into right now. And it'd be like, wow, because in the English it'll say God created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew it says Elohim, and then when the serpent comes and the Jehovah name is introduced, then the Jehovah name is introduced, and then the Jehovah name is gone, and then it comes back, and there's all these layers in there. There's layers and layers. And there's just no way to exhaust it. You don't exhaust it. You don't finish it. You're never done. And going over it and over it and over it and over it, and still nuggets. And that's just in Genesis, or the first part of Genesis. But going through Genesis, then we have the whole Bible. If we spend our whole life doing it, we still wouldn't finish. You never finish when someone says, I've read the whole Bible. Well, you're just getting started then, because there's a whole lot more than reading the whole Bible. It's nonstop, because it's alive, and it just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving. You can exhaust a novel. You can exhaust a magazine. You can exhaust a newspaper. You can exhaust a movie like I'm talking about. You can exhaust it. But you cannot exhaust the word of the Lord. Right here, these Bibles, you cannot exhaust it. If you spent every waking hour just going over this, the Bible, you cannot exhaust it. It'll speak to you until you leave this earth. I don't attempt to. I don't attempt to even look at myself and say, let's exhaust this, because I know that that's impossible. All I do is I look to say, speak to me. Speak to me. And I'm going to say this, and this may get kind of deep here. I don't even go to the Word and look and say, let me have an epiphany. Let me discover a mystery or a revelation. I know some people say, you don't do that? I look at it and I go to it, and let's stay in the book of Genesis. I just let it go to me. I just let it speak to me. I'll read it, I'll listen to it, and I just let it come to me, whatever it is. And just allow it to, all of a sudden, a trigger hits. And I think, wow, okay. And then I run with it. It's what I do. But I don't look at it like I'm solving a mystery. And I listen to some speakers, teachers, preachers, and I saw this little thumbnail on yesterday on a preacher, and it says on there when the last days started, and he had these catch things, and I'm thinking to myself right when I read it that I know what he's going to say. But I said, let me just hear what he's going to say, and how he lays it out. And so I hit the thing, and it starts, and this has just been brought out, and he starts when Israel became a nation in 1948, and then he goes to Gog and Magog, Russia and Iran invading Israel. And it's like, I knew that's what he was going to say. I knew that's what he was going to say. That he was going to say, Israel became a nation in 1948, and Iran and Russia's going to line up, and they're going to invade Israel. So his whole point was that this is it. We're done. His whole premise was we're here. We're at the end of time. We're entering in. We're going to enter into what's called the tribulation. But I just wanted to know, okay, what's he going to say? Is there going to be something I've never heard? Now, why do I say that? Because I have heard that not just yesterday. I heard that 10 years ago. I heard that 20 years ago. I heard that 30 years ago. Now, am I saying it's wrong? I'm not saying it's wrong, but what I'm saying is that I have heard that before. And here's what I say. I say, tell me something else. Tell me something else. Give me something else. Give me add to that other than these different things that we have heard, you've heard, I have heard. I don't go into it looking and saying, okay, can I figure out a mystery? Can I figure out a puzzle? I look at it, and I'm helping you here, because I'm encouraging you to do this yourself. To just hear the word, look at the word, receive the word at what it's giving you at that moment. Whatever it's speaking to your life. Because I believe that if we can just take it, instead of trying to find a mystery and just allow it to feed us, we're going to understand it better. Because we get distracted and we miss the meat of it because we're looking for something. The other thing, and I have seen people do this, where they listen to the word, read the word, hear preaching for somebody else. That's for them, that's for them. It's for this person, and this person. Another thing I don't do. I don't read the word that way. I don't study the word that way. I don't listen to the word that way. Meaning, Oh, that's for that person. That's for that person. And people will do that. They'll go into scriptures, searching them out to actually go tell somebody else about what their belief is or how they see it or the life they're living. I just feel like that's really counterproductive because we're missing our part, which is for us. So to just receive it and then receive it again and receive it again, and then you have layers that you add on to. The other thing I don't do is compare or run a race next to another person on the word. I don't look and say, I want to catch this person. I want to know as much as that person. I don't do that. I just say, give me what's mine. What I mean, what's mine. What speaks to me, and let it come to me. And then I do what I do, relaying it, delivering it back. Now, my Hebrew teacher, his knowledge was amazing. And I'm not over-exaggerating this. So I could be getting ready to preach and preparing myself. And I had the privilege, I would call him. He has passed away. But I would be able to call him, and I'd say, I'm in this portion of Scripture. Can you tell me what this is saying? He said, go ahead and read it. And I'd read it in English. I'd read it in English to him. He'd come back to me. He'd come back to me in Hebrew, and he'd say it in Hebrew. Then he'd bring it back to English, and he'd say, okay, boom, 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 this means this, this means this. When they say this, it's applying. And he could give me the culture. He can give me the context. And he could give me all this information. Now, I can do the search that could take me hours, but this conversation could happen in less than 10 minutes. And it'd just be, okay, thank you, bye, have a good day. And it was, he was more than happy to do that for me. But his knowledge, I never even thought that I'm going to imitate him, follow him, because what he did, and this is what his life was dedicated to, was teaching people how to learn the word from the Hebrew is what he did. That was his whole desire, purpose. So I couldn't even think about looking at it that way. But I did look, and I would go to many times. Of course, we did one-on-one, but he would teach at other places, and I would go when he was at other places, and I would just sit there, and I wouldn't say anything. And people would be there, and they would start throwing questions at him. They would start challenging him, and it was like, you're way out of your league, I would think, as people would do that. I would say nothing unless he asked me. If he asked me, what do you think, Pastor? What do you think this is? And what do you think that is? And then I would chime in if he did that. But if he was teaching, I would never go in and try and disrupt him, challenge him, but I would watch people do it. And it would be so, the people would be so out of their league that it'd be like he was just flicking a lint off of himself when they would throw things at him. And there would be people that would come to his lectures with the sole purpose of challenging him. But I look at it and be like, I'm just receiving. And that's what I would do. I would just sit there and say, okay, let me learn. Let me hear. And I'm giving him as an example, but I would do that I still do that. If I go somewhere, I'm just taking it in. I'm just taking it in. Let me hear what is being delivered. And grab what's mine. And what do I mean what's mine? How it speaks to my life. It could be one word, it could be one sentence, it could be one paragraph, it could be the whole premise of the message. There's just so many things. But you can hear a message and then re-listen to it later and you catch something else or you miss something. But when you're getting it, that you don't get yourself out of position by being distracted, that you don't even get off the ground. Because we have all these other thoughts, we're disrupted, we're checking the score of the game, and we're missing it. Instead of saying, okay, let me receive. Now, I got to start wrapping this up. But when you're hearing the word, you're reading the word, you're studying the word, and you go back and you go again. The same thing happens when you're in conversations with people. That your ability to listen, your ability to hear, your ability to focus on what the person is delivering you. And in order to do that, you have to remove the distractions. There's so many people that when you speak to them, that you could tell they're not hearing you. They're not even hearing you at all. I've done this and people won't even know that I've done it. I'm speaking to them, I'm talking to them. I could see that they're not even paying attention. They're just looking at me with their eyes glossed over, and I stop in mid-sentence. And I stop speaking. I don't even finish what I'm saying. And the person will just go into what was on their mind to say. They didn't even catch that I stopped. They just were waiting for me to finish speaking. They weren't even paying attention to know that I stopped in mid-sentence. And then I realized they weren't even paying attention to what I was delivering them. They had their dissertation, they had their speech, and they were rehearsing it in their mind to deliver to me. So whatever I had meant nothing. It's another thing that I do. There's so much I'm not even going to share. I'm not even going to say. I'm not even going to speak. And especially in preaching and teachings. I have to have a whole bulk of information that I never even share with anybody. Like I gave you a little breakdown of things I have done. Just a little sliver that I'm constantly receiving and knowing that I may never share what I'm taking in with someone else, with anybody, with the world. And I get it. And maybe I do. But I have a whole bunch of information that I just store and store and store and store. I constantly do that. Constantly. My mom asked me the other day, she said, how do you find time to do all these things? Well, whenever there is a window, there's a space, I just take. And even I find myself when it's time to relax and it's time to just shut it down, and I'll find myself and I'll tell myself, just relax, just take it easy. I'll find myself going and getting more information. So I'm studying all these different things, and this is something you may want to do. You don't have to, but what I do, I study biographies, and I've done that for a long time. I study biographies, but I'll look at biographies, and I also want to do it as my relaxing, and I'll study. And I had a gentleman ask me just recently this past week. He said, "How do you know all this stuff? How do you know all this stuff? How do you know so much information in all these areas?" And I couldn't give him the total answer, but I did tell him, I said, I'm always taking in. I'm just constantly taking in. I'm always listening. I'm always watching. I'm always reading. And at the same time, I'm doing this. I'm prepping for this today, this morning, where I prepped for it. I'll be speaking shortly in person. And at the same time, in between, I'm writing 2 books. I got 2 books going at the same time, which to me, sounds a little bit crazy, but I'll go to one book and I'll just start going in and writing, and then I'll go to the other book and I'll start writing in that one, and then I'll say, well, I'm going to do 500 words in this book, and next thing you know, I look and it's over 1,000. I'm like, wow, I thought I was just going to do 500, and I end up doing 1,000, and I go back, I jump back, and they're two different books, and they're two different angles, but what they are is a lot of what I have learned, gone through, received. And I'm encouraging you as I do wrap this up now. Run your race. Run your race. Climb your mountain. Just receive what goes to you. Don't look to find something that justifies how you view things and see things, and look to find support to an argument. Any of those things. Just eat. Just take it. Just let the word speak to you. Let the word speak to you. Let the Lord speak to you. And where's he going to speak to you? In your heart. Open your heart to receive from him, from the Lord. Let him speak to you. And with that being said, we're actually going to touch a little bit of this differently today at 12 o'clock in person. We'll also be online. I'm going to cover a different portion, but I'm going to give some instructions on how to do this. And what do I mean, how to do what? How to receive. How to receive, how to hear differently than what I just did this morning. Thank you for joining us. You probably know by now, we have our app. It's been launched. You can find it at any of your app stores, Google Play, iStore, if I said that right. You can find it on there. So much information. We have this on there, Pastor's Corner. We have Joy Comes in the Morning. We have different information. We have areas that you can give. If you don't want to download the app and you just like to give, you could text 77977 New Creation AZ. New Creation AZ 77977. I want to tell you this, God is good. He is good. Thank God, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Let us live out of the word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. We will be back here at 12 o'clock, 1363 South Vineyard in Mesa, if you'd like to walk in person, or you could join us online. Have a beautiful and blessed Sunday.